Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to talk about escapism within the role of video game addiction. Keep in mind, I already covered a form of escapism called active escapism in my previous video. I'm still going to be referencing the same study that was published in June 2024, where it talks about escapism, what it is, how it manifests itself in problematic gaming, and what we can do about it moving forward. If you guys are new here, my name is Mathu, and I help families battle video gaming addiction. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, leave a like and subscribe. So what exactly is escapism? So before we get into today's topic, let's recap what we already discussed in the previous video, which this video is like a part 2 of that video. In that video, we discussed active escapism. Now, active escapism is when a gamer is unsatisfied with their current life and uses gaming as a way to bridge the gap. They want their lives to be one way. It is currently not like that, and they go out and use gaming as a mechanism to achieve that desired life result. While this is still escapism, this branch of escapism, active escapism, has more positive connotations to it than regular escapism. Why? Because the person is going out searching for the stimuli to bridge the gap between expectation and reality. Now bear in mind, it's still not good. I'm not saying it is, but it's sort of seen as a lesser evil of the two that we're going to discuss here. In today's video, we're going to discuss escapism itself. Now, escapism is loosely defined as gaming to avoid a rejected physical environment that threatens the sense of agency and stability of self-image. Now, I have a story about this personally. When I was in college, my first go around in college, I would pretend like I was going to classes, and then I would just go to the library and just play video games like all day, basically, like for hours and hours and hours on end. What I was seeking was to escape the mundanity and the humdrum of attending college and, you know, just going back and forth between commutes, taking notes, attending lectures. Like, I wanted to escape that lifestyle and have a more fun lifestyle. I was using gaming as a way, as an escape mechanism to rid myself of all the negative emotions of boredom and not feeling good enough and feeling like my life didn't have any meaning, just going to classes and taking classes that I wasn't even interested in. Gaming filled me with a sense of purpose, and it filled me with a sense of direction that I desperately needed at the time. And I was using gaming as an escape mechanism to achieve that proxy result of, hey, I want to do this, I want to feel like I am doing something useful. Bear in mind that escapism usually comes about when an individual is overwhelmed by the physical world and they need a turn off switch. Sort of like if you're taking too many losses in life, there's too many things going wrong, you're feeling overwhelmed by life's crushing indifference to you. You sort of turn down the dial. Instead of it being super hard, you sort of turn down the difficulty to medium or easy. And you do this by escaping into games. And you're in a controlled environment where there are clearly defined rules, there are patterns that you can easily recognize, and that gives you a sense of control and a sense of belonging that gaming sort of invites you in and sort of treats you better than real life. And a lot of people seek solace in that, and that's why they succumb to gaming in the first place. We already discussed active escapism, right? So I want to make the clear distinction here that the difference between active escapism and escapism is that in active escapism, people are using gaming as a way to compensate for their real life. Hey, I could be doing this, so let me use gaming as a way to augment my human experience and augment the sensations and feelings I get to experience by using gaming. This is active escapism. You're going out and seeking out and achieving these things, even though it is by proxy and it's not technically genuine in that sense. Escapism, on the other hand, is avoiding real life altogether. You're too beaten down, you're too overwhelmed, your mental is in the gutter, and you use gaming as a way to run away. Instead of going out and seeking it, you run away. And this is why it's the second level in the Sea Dog model. It's because it's the natural evolution of active escapism, where you're beaten down and frustrated and you just want to retreat and recluse back into gaming and avoid real life altogether. An easy way for you guys to remember this is that active escapism comes from dissatisfaction, whereas escapism comes from frustration. Now, there's an interesting nugget of information here that if you guys are paying attention, you'll be able to notice. Ultimately, the difference between active escapists and escapists lies in the perceived agency of the individual. How much agency does a person think they have over their lives? So we already established that active escapists go out and search things. While they're going about it the wrong way, let's still try to remember that they still feel like they can control their environment. They still feel like, hey, I'm going to take these steps and this will lead to this result. Sure, it's not genuine, sure, but at the end of the day, they're still trying, right? They still believe they can take their lives into their own hands and mold it into something that they find satisfactory with, which is a much better better mindset to have as opposed to escapists. For an escapist, they're sort of done and tired with their life and they want to just shut it off completely. They don't want anything to do with it and they feel like they're not good enough anymore. Treatment options for active escapists versus escapists can be quite different because of this, because of perceived agency. How much control do you think you can exert over your own life? In my opinion, I think they are generally weaker-willed and they don't have the same go-getter mindset that active escapists might have. As such, their treatment would have to be much more slower and pronounced, with having to do some deep reflection on what's causing them so much pain and how can we slowly overturn that pain into something more manageable where they don't feel beaten down by life stressors anymore. And obviously this can get into depression and social anxiety and all of that. So let's get into treatment options. One thing that we can do in order to get your child to transition away from escapist gaming is actually quite simple. It's to get them into active escapism instead. Ideally, you would want them to stop playing video games altogether, right? Like we all want that. But bear in mind, I said escapism is a bigger, badder brother of active escapism, and it would serve your family member well if we can get them to downgrade their level of escapism. Instead of being a recluse altogether, instead of seeking solace, at least chase after it. You know, at least have a goal, at least be willing to identify what are the problems in your life that are not being met. And okay, if you're going to use gaming, fine, but at least go after it instead of running away from it. One of the easiest ways that we can stop people from becoming full-on disassociated with their life is that we can get them to identify the stressors. And I think this is a very important part. Identifying the stressors on what's actually causing them pain is our first step in curing escapism and video game addiction altogether. Another trick we can use is self-image work. Now, self-image work has to do with the narratives we tell ourselves. As far as self-image work is concerned, once we've identified the problem, what you want to do is that be very mindful of the things that you tell yourself, such as if your kid goes through their entire life saying that they're unattractive or not sociable or unathletic, this can create reinforcement for that narrative. Their behavior, their brain starts to regulate their behavior in a way that makes them correct. So it's important to have a sit down with whoever your kid or your loved one is and really get into the nitty-gritty of why they're feeling like this, why they feel like they have to escape into gaming, what's causing them so much pain that they have to avoid real life. And oftentimes the pain problem, or like what causes them the problem, is obvious at first, but you have to dig deep in order to realize the actual roots of the problem. And this is where it can get tricky for some parents, as in they won't be able to fully understand what's causing their child so much pain because they are unfortunately involved in it to some degree. Obviously they don't mean to be, and I'm not blaming you for it, but there are some things you might have said or might have acted in a way that caused your child to sort of self-implode and reclude away from life and choose gaming as an alternative to come speaking with you. Now, I know this sounds painful, but identifying this and working toward it is one of the best ways we can make sure your child eventually gets out of video gaming addiction altogether. So if that's something you'd be interested in, I'm actually offering one-on-one coaching for anyone who wants to help rid their child of video gaming addiction. As someone who's been through it myself, 8 years being addicted, having lost years and years and years of worth of academic potential as well as social potential, I want to make sure that your child doesn't have to go through the same thing. So if you want to have a more deep dive on self-image and how to control your child's escapism so we can eventually de-escalate those habits and get rid of gaming addiction altogether, my links are in the description below. Other than that, guys, that's all for today's video. In the next video, we will discuss disassociation, which is the final evolution of this active escapism. It's when escapism takes its most dangerous form and it can be quite hard to get out of. So make sure to subscribe to stay tuned in on what the science has to say about that. I'll see you in the next video.